Peace and blessings. Once again, it's good to be here with you. We have a technical issue. So once again, it's good to be with you. The new day out. And today's topic, excuse me, bring you greetings on behalf of our president, uh, that being the national president of the Alumni Association, Mr. J. Rep, as well as the president of the university, Dr. Gerald Riggs. And of course, my name is Reverend Anthony J. Brownlow, and I'm the national captain. So, folks, this week our theme is I Can See It. Genesis, the 37th chapter, the 23rd to 24th verses. And so the text reads as follows. So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his robe, the long robe of sleeves that he wore. And they took him and threw him into a pit. The pit was empty. There was no water in it. May the Lord add a blessing to the reader, hearer, and doer of God's rich and powerful word. I can see it. Genesis, the 37th chapter, verses 23 through 24. Hey, folks, it is very interesting when folks in the business sector or those individuals who plan out tasks, long-term goals, or whatever, generally have this practice that is to start with the end in mind, right? Well, folks, it's problematic when you don't have all the variables or key variables with trying to plan with the end in mind. In fact, we've talked about this once before. There are a lot of instances, especially in our engagement with God, we know where we're going to start and we know where we want to end up. But man, in between those 2 points, things get real funny. And so, folks, I think today that's where we land here. Job finds himself in a predicament. He goes from being in the darling of his father's eyesight to having his robe stripped off, and then finding himself in a pit with no water, right? And folks, I think sometimes life hits us like that. We could be moseying along life's path. We could be doing all the things that are right and raised up, highlighted, amplified, and all is well. And then we have a season or a moment where things fall apart and we can find ourselves in our own pits of frustration. And what generally happens in those pits is a moment where we can't see what's down the road. Although we would like to start with the end in mind and have some idea of what will happen next when the pit of frustration has us arrested. That's not a luxury. And so today, if that is the season you find yourself in, the one thing I ask of you is not to make a detrimental decision because you are in a pit of frustration. I also would ask you not to make an emotional decision because what generally happens, and I'll say this for myself, is when you find yourself arrested, some practices that you have grown past or you no longer subscribe to try to creep in and avail themselves because they know that you're weak and you're vulnerable, because you're in your own pit of frustration. You've been stripped of all your successes. You're desperate. There is no water or sustenance in the pit with you, and you feel vulnerable. And so, past practices that you graduated from, that you no longer subscribe to, that you recognize are no longer beneficial, get real loud and try to get you to backstep or fall back into something or scenario that you used to do. Um, and so this is where I encourage you to turn to God, uh, and not lean on your own understanding, because there is something uh, waiting on down the line that is so profoundly rich. You just find yourself in between the 2 points where you started, or the origin, um, and where you want to be at the conclusion or at the end. And so, because you can't see what down the road has for you, I think in those moments you have to take one step at a time and almost move at a snail's pace. Uh, but recognizing that you need to put your hand in God's hand. And so I think that's what happens with Joseph in this moment. One, he was devastated that he no longer had the glory that he once had. Two, he finds himself in a pit of frustration without water and sustenance. Right? And instead of him, making a drastic decision, uh, he allowed this story to play out. And we all know how it played out. And so, although you can't see, mhm, God can see. And so that's where I ask you to turn your focus to God. So that although you are blinded maybe by the frustrations of life now, and though you may find yourself in a pit with no possibilities, you've been stripped of all of the wins you've had in past days. I want you not to fall back into old practices, and not again to make a drastic decision where you won't afford God an opportunity to get you to your destination. And so again, we do know Joseph becomes the key character in the lives of his community. But you know, what we see now is him in the pit of frustration. And so you may be there. And so I that you give God his hands. Although things may not be playing out like you want them to right now, but create some space, some room for God to remove you from your frustration and to get you to your place of glorification. And that being said, um, I know uh, that you will be able to see it at a future time. Just right now, the clouds are dark, the frustrations are many, uh, but trust and know God is doing a thing even in the midst of your pit situation. That being said, let's still our hearts for a word of prayer. God, we thank you that when we can't see, uh, you, uh, the God who light to our path. God, we thank you for all of those individuals, despite what they may be wrestling with in this current war, who have found the strength to tune in and to participate in this moment of praise and petition. And so, God, we bless you. We know that you're all knowing, And though we may be in the midst of our journey, um, we can be fine with the fact that you're there as well, and that our job is to hold on and recognize that you have something greater in store for each of us. And so, as we uh, prepare to bring this time together to a close, we ask, Lord, that you cultivate the hearts and minds of all of us, uh, that we may continue to grow closer to you, that even when we don't have answers to the questions of our lives, uh, instead of us trying to make rash and emotional decisions, we take up residence in your divine haven and open our ears to hear uh, what you will have or what you have for such a time as this in our particular lives. God, we bless you for this time we've been together. We thank you for replenishing our spirits and nourishing our souls. And God, we lift up these words of praise and petition in your name. Amen. Well, folks, it has been good to be right here at the noonday hour with each of you. And as always, uh, I suggest and recommend that you keep asking, that keep seeking, keep knocking. The God we serve is not in the business of having a deaf ear to your concern. And so we look forward to seeing you right back here, same time, same place next week. But as you go forward, know, although you may not be able to see it yet, God can. And one day you will be able to say, I can see it. Be blessed.